Hi, I'm Sean from Ealing Wildlife Group and we're here today at the Costons Lane Nature Reserve. It's going to be a community nature reserve and it's all been done by volunteer power. And we're going to be talking to some of our Ealing Wildlife Group members because this week is Mental Health Awareness Week and the theme is nature. And I know personally myself, nature has been really useful to me in terms of my mental health and my well-being during the pandemic. Living alone in a one-bedroom flat with not much outside space, it's been so important to get outdoors. So we're going to talk to some of our members about what nature means to them in managing their mental health and well-being.
Well, for most of my adult life I've suffered from depression, and over the years I've developed various strategies to stop the slide into depression and to pull myself out. One of those strategies is wildlife photography. So I go out into a lovely place, get into a mindset, a Zen mindset. I try and become in tune with nature.
Yeah.
I feel that being close to nature in such a way leads to better photography, and take some pictures. And importantly, to square the circle, I look at those pictures over the months, years, and it takes me straight back to that happy place.
Yeah, brilliant. And why do you think nature has been important during the pandemic to you and to a lot of people?
Well, I think the blunt response to that is that most people have been locked down and they've had restrictions to the outside because of health. They might be scared of catching COVID, whatever the reason. And going outside, even if it's into the garden or onto a balcony or sticking your head out the window, or going to a nature reserve like the one that we're stood in here, can only be beneficial, not just in times of a health crisis, but at any time.
You've been a volunteer here for quite a while, right?
Sure, I've been here 2 or 3 times, helped plant a hedge,
Yeah.
along with several other people.
Yeah.
It's all part of a big team effort, and makes me feel great.
I think, especially at the moment, we're living in a time that sees so many stresses for all of us. Everything from what's happening globally to what's happening locally. People's jobs and have been impacted, families, all sorts. And of course, we're all living through a pandemic as well at the moment, and that's had a tremendous impact on so many people. For me, nature is a tremendous sedative, and whilst nature won't necessarily help take those problems away, certainly they can help with dealing with a lot of the issues that we face. And we already know that the impact of nature physiologically on us is quite tremendous in terms of our heart rate, blood pressure, and so forth. So, it's really interesting actually that the colour green and the colours blue happen to be the most calming on the mind, and I think that's more than just a coincidence. And if we look around us, of course, there's tremendous green. It's green everywhere, and thankfully today, if we look up, there's blue as well. Yeah. So for me personally, there's not a day when I don't sit in my garden. I'm very fortunate, as you know, to have a lovely garden. But you don't need a garden. There's so much green, so much wildlife around us. Take a moment just to see what's going on around you, and it has a tremendously positive impact on us.
Would you say it's like mindfulness to deliberately go and connect with nature? What's the effect if you don't get to do that?
Yeah, so on the days that I feel the stress levels creeping up, I've realised I stop and think, gosh, I've actually not spent any time just slowing down, looking around and observing nature. And it's not just the physiological impact it has on us, but actually what we learn from nature, what it can teach us as well. And I think that's so vital. I mean, we already know that, technology, engineering and so forth all picks up from nature. The answers are in nature. And therefore, the sedative that nature is has a tremendously positive impact as well. And that's so important to take the time to look and observe and let it and just be absorbed.
Yeah, I think really getting out in nature really helps me because I tend to be the sort of person that has a lot going on in my head all the time.
Yeah.
But what I find is when I actually get outside and just walk around, I tend to really interact with nature. I look at the birds, look at the trees. I'm not good at identifying trees. I sort of know the common birds, but I don't let that stop me. And I just find it really peaceful and calming, even when there's people around. I think that makes me feel positive knowing that there's other people out there sort of doing the same thing as me. And yeah, I think with lockdown, I've definitely spent more time in my local area, which has been really, really nice. So just going to sort of local areas like Horsington Woods and just spending much more time there. And then obviously I know volunteering's been sort of it's not been as easy, but just getting out, and when you can get out and get your hands dirty and sort of meet new people and just find that there's people that have common interests. So for me, nature's been so helpful, not just through lockdown, previously as well, but just to get out and sort of be outside in the outdoor environment, get some fresh air, and also whatever the weather. Like today, it's not the greatest day, but the rain can really help as well. Sometimes you can feel more positive when it's raining and you actually get out and do something. When you get home, you sort of feel like you've actually made something of the day rather than being stuck inside. So for me, it's been really great.
Great. And tell us a little bit about your blog, Chantal.
So the blog's called Wonderfilled London, and it's really to focus on the fact that there's a lot going on in London. So obviously it's a big city, there's lots of buildings around, but there is a lot out there. There's a lot of green spaces, there's a lot of nature. Based on the UN definition, it's actually can be classified as a forest, London, because of the number of trees and the diversity there. And then I think there's something like 80 plus species of birds that can be found in London. So for me, that was sort of, I think we automatically think about going out into the countryside to sort of interact with nature. But there's actually more diversity in urban spaces, believe it or not. So for me, the website was really to sort of try to get people interested in that, aware of that, and also you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know about the different species, and just to see what's on your doorstep. And I think things like the Ealing Wildlife Group are really great because you can ask people questions, and it's really nice to learn as you go. So you might take pictures of things when you're out, but then to ask people. So the website is really to help to educate, to show what's going on in terms of events and things like that. But yeah, just to tell people that it's not about going outside of London. You can see a lot.
I think it's life-saving, if I can say that, because with the whole pandemic going on last year, I'm living alone in my studio and I was extremely vulnerable, so I had to do the self-isolation. So it was really, really lonely experience with all the work on top and a lot of stress. So whenever you had the chance to just go out a little bit to the nature and that silence and that freedom and that green in itself, it was just an amazing feeling. It calms you down. Maybe that's why hospitals are using green in their walls, because it's just such a calming color itself. But what is happening within nature on top of this is the sounds, the smells, the colors. We have a lot of lovely sounds here. They are amazing.
Great. And what specifically in nature, like, is it plants or animals, or is it certain things that you really enjoy seeing out and about?
Ooh, that's a difficult one because on one hand, animals are my passion. I absolutely adore them, and I absolutely love to watch them, how they behave, what they do, how they live their life, and I'm trying to learn from them. Resilience, I'm trying to learn from them acceptance, or how they just enjoy the present moment, how they are not complaining about things, they are just doing what they need to do. But on the other hand, plants like colors and smells, that's unbeatable. So I think it's amazing. It would be very, very difficult to choose, but luckily I don't need to.
absolutely. So, you know, the Ealing Wildlife Group, which has been going for about 5 years now, and I joined it right at the very, very beginning, where there were just a handful of us. And now, of course, the tremendous work that you've done, Sean, it's you know, we've got nearly probably about 4,500 members, and it's growing rapidly. And the impact that has, the knowledge that's being shared, things that we might not see, other people have seen. They share it with the group. It builds tremendous interest. You know, everything from not just wildlife, but also, you know, or the animal world, but plants as well. You know, that, and it's bringing so much joy to so many people of all different types of ages. So we've got children, we've got, you know, senior citizens in there, and they're all sharing that knowledge. So there's a common good that brings us together, and I think it's a wonderful environment to be a part of.
Amazing. It's so nice to know that sort of an area of land that I understand was sort of derelict for quite some time can be taken over by sort of a local community group, and it just really makes you feel positive about it, because I think we can feel quite despondent and sort of, you know, about our local community. It sometimes feels like we can't do anything about it, but yeah, groups like yourself who sort of gets people together, and you know, I came here quite a few months ago, and I think the change that I've seen just from the time that I came and volunteered, and I know the local sort of lager can group who are litter pickers, amazing people, but I know they've also come and helped as well. So, and I'd love to see in the next few weeks and months what happens. But yeah, I mean, if I'm quiet, you can hear all the birds around, so obviously the nature and sort of habitat is obviously having a real impact on the animals as well as people.
Yeah, great. What other volunteer kind of tasks have you done in Ealing for nature and wildlife?
With again with Ealing Wildlife Group, there was a pond, I think it was pond restoration for the newts. Is that right? Can't remember the species of newt. Great crested newt, which I think quite rare, and that was really great, because again there's a great space for them, but it was clearing the ponds to make the habitat better for them. And then also there's sort of Horsenden Farm, which is amazing. So great to think that there's a farm sort of in like a neighbourhood of London. So working there as well, volunteering there as well. But yeah, quite a few different things across the borough.
Great.
Ealing Wildlife Group is a group of great people, nature enthusiasts, some truly expert, some just starting out. One of the things I like about Ealing Wildlife Group is that somebody will put a picture up or ask what might be a very basic question, and they might say to the picture, I saw this such and such a bird in Ealing, and it clearly isn't that bird, but nobody shoots them down. There's never a flame war. Somebody will say quite nicely, this is actually a whatever the bird is.
Yes.
It's a font of knowledge, Ealing Wildlife Group.
Great. And what does volunteering with the group do for you?
With volunteering for Ealing Wildlife Group, there's a social aspect. It's nice to chat to people, meet people for the first time. We all know each other's names on the Facebook group, so it's nice to put a face, a person to that name or that avatar that they use. But volunteering for the group is making room for wildlife. And as a wildlife photographer, it can only be good for me, because in 10 years' time, the hedge that we've been planting here will be fully grown, and it will be full of warblers and other species.
So I wanted to get actually closer to nature, and when I was moving to my new place a couple of years ago, that's when I found on Facebook, and I joined it because you were looking for people to volunteer, and I thought that this would be a really nice idea to go out and do something good, and at the same time to be closer to nature, and that's when I joined the group. And then my first experience was a dawn chorus, which I never pronounced right, but I think people will know what I mean here. And since then it's a different word, because sure, it was you who was telling us about the birds and how they sound like and how we will recognize them. And from that point, whenever I am out, I'm just trying to listen to them and see that, oh, this is that and this is that, and it keeps you just so much close to reality that it's it's great.
Great. Do you have anything else to add?
I think you know what, because it's Mental Health Week, I think it's important to add this mindfulness element in it, which is obviously very important. And once you tried it and you practiced it, because at the beginning it's quite difficult, but then it gets a bit easier, then you know that it really works. And I think it's quite good with all the birds and everything when you are out, or in nature in general, that you just need to be there. If I'm talking about the birds and listening their sounds and recognizing it, you really need to pay attention to that. Otherwise, if your thoughts are somewhere else in a different think about your job, then you won't be able to recognize what that bird is. You might even not hear it. So I think if you want to get into mindfulness, I think it's a very nice way is to start with birds and listening to them and trying to identify them, and then it will show you what it means to be in the now.
Yeah. So it makes sense to you that Mental Health Awareness Week this year is focused on nature?
Oh, totally, absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Nature is the best.
Great. Thanks.
And Ealing Wildlife Group.
Brilliant.